Hello and welcome to the ThinkTree discussions. My name is Kush Kumar and today we're at Shalom Holistic in Doncaster and I'm speaking to Jane Lawson. Hello Jane.
Hi.
So Jane, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Right, well I'm a clinical aromatherapist and reflexologist, and I don't just do therapy obviously. I qualified about 30 years ago now in clinical aromatherapy. Having done all my training up in Scotland, and I was very fortunate that my teacher had done her training via Margaret Moray's original students that she trained here in the UK. So really grassroots English aromatherapy, as we call it. And from then, via her as well, I ended up getting into the teaching side as well and developed obviously my own aromatherapy and then clinical aromatherapy and reflexology, and I also do the Lomi.
Okay,
massage.
so you're emphasising the word clinical. Can you explain that a little bit to me?
Okay, so what we've currently got in the UK basically is like 3 levels of aromatherapy. So you've got what we would call beauty aromatherapy or holistic aromatherapy, which basically are almost like bolt-on courses to other courses that people do, but they're only allowed, the therapist is only allowed to use pre-blended products on a client. You then get the aromatherapy level where you're obviously trained so that you can actually mix and blend bespoke, if you like, appropriate blends for the client. And then you go up again into the clinical level, which is like a whole different world again, because you've got 2 or 3 different, therapies under your belt, but you incorporate the essential oils into that.
Okay, so what's so significant about clinical versus the other aromatherapy you're talking about?
Well, clinical basically, it allows you more entry to work alongside doctors, so it's more like integrated medicine. That's where the word clinical sort of comes in. And that's where I was very fortunate, because when I first qualified, I was taken on by the local GP practice in Scotland, because Scotland, in fairness, are way ahead of the rest of the UK with accepting complementary therapy. And I was asked by the local doctor's surgery, the surgery up there, to work with them, and the head of practice there, and I'm going back like 25 years now, every doctor there had to have a clinical background in complementary therapy. So my personal doctor, for example, was a homeopath, and they brought me in because they had nobody that was doing the aromatherapy basically, but they wouldn't have looked at me if I was just doing aromatherapy. It's because I went up because I was doing the clinical. That's the big difference. So with clinical aromatherapy, yes, you do have a foot in both camps almost. You're working alongside the medical profession, but at the same time, you have got obviously the more, shall we call it, esoteric approach, with the aromatherapy side of things.
So you said that you've obviously started your own training school as well. So what's the significance of that? So what do people learn, obviously?
Okay, so within, it's called Natural Approach. Within that, you can come along and study diploma courses. So there is the aromatherapy. You then can go on to do the clinical if you so wish. There's also the reflexology part of it. Alongside then, there are the CPD courses, obviously the further learning. So even if you've done the aromatherapy but don't want to go to clinical, but you might want to learn more about other essential oils, because it's such a huge market now. There are a lot more oils made available to us. So you can do CPD courses, say, just on a set of essentials, so you can actually integrate them into your practice as well, even if you didn't want to go up to clinical level. So there's lots of little things like that I do as well. So they're more like what I call workshops. So you call them CPD.
You do CPD, you do workshops, you've got training. What's your view of practical?
I'm starting to train teachers now.
Oh, fantastic. So what's your view of these practical courses that you can find online?
Right, if you're doing theory courses, so for example, when I did my recent winter wellness one, the winter essentials as I called them, the ones that signed up, we covered 17 different essential oils, fairly new to the market. So I sent out what I call sniffy sticks, or nasal inhalers as people know them, a bit like the Vicks nasal inhaler things, for each one of those. So I was able to teach that online because they had a sample of the oil there and they were experiencing the oil, so they really, really, really got to know the oil. That kind of thing's fine. But when it comes to practical, hands-on part of courses, and you see so many of these, you know, learn aromatherapy online, yes, you can learn the essentials. That is possible if you've got the oil to work alongside the tutor with online and do it that way, but you can't learn the massage part of it. There's just no way you can learn that. I can't see how much pressure the student is putting on if I try to teach it online. You know, how can you explain if you're watching, no, you're doing that move wrong, this is how it's just impossible. It has to be done face to face, you know, and I'm all about raising the standards anyway. My big thing this year, you know, is to take aromatherapists and take them up to clinical, and then take my clinical therapists up to teachers as well, because I'm not getting any younger, and I want to make sure that English aromatherapy stays there, you know.
So what's your biggest success with what you're doing?
My biggest success, probably, it's a bit of a sad situation how it came about, obviously quite a tragic one, was the Grenfell Tower.
Okay.
As soon as that happened, I was down there by the Sunday, and, you know, even with our Rosemary, pulled a whole team of therapists. Some travelled from, all, like myself, all over the UK down there. We set up a team of therapists, really highly trained therapists, because you're going into a major trauma situation. You know, there was no point, you know, we had lots of people applying and saying, I want to come and help. And it was Elizabeth Ashley Starnes, actually, who sort of vetted them in the background for us. And a lot of people got refused because they had no background in dealing with a kind of trauma. And every time we you know, a new therapist would come on board, because we ended up with about probably a core of 12, but there were others that would come down as well. So there was maybe about 25 of us that offered all kinds of different types of therapy, but it had to be appropriate to that situation. So obviously essentials were major. They really were major. Again, the sniffy sticks came into it for people. We had to turn people away. The first thing I would do was take them to actually see the tower. And there were so many people that just stood there, looked at the tower, because to see it on TV, believe me, it was just nothing like seeing the tower in real life. Because you had all the people wandering around. It was like a war zone down there. People just walking around completely dazed and blank. And therapists were saying, I can't do this. This is well beyond my remit, you know. So the people that did get involved at the end of the day, like myself, they're even teachers in their field as well. So you are talking about way up there people that got involved at Grenfell. So the aftermath of that one, in effect, it's still going on, obviously, and some of the London therapists that got involved are still doing therapies down there. There is an ongoing situation there where it comes to the poisons and the toxins, but on the bigger scale of things, and obviously I would like to think we'll never be called to anything ever again, but it does mean that we now have a core of, there's about 60 or 70 of us UK-wide, that if anything happens, say up in this neck of the woods, it could be a flood next time and people getting displaced or whatever, or another, God forbid, another bombing tragedy or something like that. Or even, like I said, you know, in a primary school, for example, maybe a child has gone lost and the whole school's affected by it, and or a child has died. We can actually send the relevant therapists who are specialists in their fields to actually go and help that school out, you know. And it could be things like EFT, for example, you know, mindfulness meditation type things, all this sort of things. So we have got a huge core of therapists that are qualified. So yes, I suppose that's my biggest one at the moment.
A very worthwhile one as well.
Yes.
Obviously, you know, it's not. Yes, we do focus on prevention better than cure, but traumatic things happen.
They do,
and it's good to see that this industry can help. You know, and that's fantastic. So, what's up and coming? What's new for you and what you're doing?
Well, at the moment, I'm for the foreseeable future. At the moment, I really am pushing to upgrade aromatherapists into clinical level, because of all the changes that are going on within the NHS, and we're seeing all these reports now saying that the NHS wants to start drawing in more complementary therapy to ease the burden on the NHS. So that is one of my big things for this year, and that's why I'm here, because this is an aromatherapist that's upgrading to a clinical level. So that is one of them. And then also gradually, as I see the abilities within clinical aromatherapists, I can say, do you know what, you would make a really good teacher, and I really would like to help you and train you so that you can become a teacher as well, because we really now have to secure this. We're having outside influences coming in, and I don't want to get too political about it, but with these MLM companies, as they call it, who are selling essential oils, encouraging people to ingest the oils, and please don't even start me on that one. It's a specific brand. We're going to start seeing injuries. And the problem is, in the bigger scheme of things, my greatest worry is that somewhere the governments would then turn around and say, we've got to take all these oils off the market, people are getting injured.
Yeah.
But we've got to make sure that we have a core of clinical aromatherapists in this country, and bodies like ThinkTree Hub who can say, no, before you do that, that is a sales situation. This is the therapy side. You cannot take those away, because people do benefit from it. So it's up to all of us to upgrade, get ourselves as high as we possibly can, so that in the eventuality of something like that happening, which is a possibility, I'm not saying it will, but it could happen, that we are there to back the therapists up and deal with the various authorities, to be able to say, no, they are two separate things. They are clearly two separate things. Mm-hmm. You need to deal with them separately to the actual people who are trained in, using the products.
Yeah, you're right, and we do look at standards and quality as well, and I guess the point you're trying to make is that education plays a big part in this.
Huge.
And we're delighted to have you on board with ThinkTree as our subject matter expert, which is great, and also beneficial to our members and anybody else who's party to that. So how do ThinkTree members benefit from being from Jane Lawson and her experience?
As ThinkTree members, I suppose, if you're already in the aromatherapy field, or you're looking to add, for example, using the essential oils within your reflexology. Now, the Reflexology Association probably might not be very happy with reflexologists using essential oils within that, but I've seen it over all these years. There is a huge, lovely combination treatment that can go on there. So that's one example. If you're a reflexologist but you want to add something else in there to upgrade it and to make it far more bespoke and effective as a treatment, to back it up so that once you've done the actual reflex treatment, you can say, now I need you to use these blend of oils at home in this way for this amount of time. And then I call it an oil change, and I want you to pop back for an oil change, or whatever. It adds an extra dimension so that you're not just doing the therapy, off they go, and they come back for their follow-up treatment. There is something they can actually... I like to put people's health back in their hands.
Yeah.
So even through the therapist can say, this is what you need to do at home. We are then, as therapists, we are educating the public. So they can say, go and see this therapist, because I didn't just go and get my shoulder sorted, but she gave me, for example, in my field, obviously, essential oils that I've been using, because she obviously realised there was emotional stuff going on that was causing all of this, but it keeps me chill, so this doesn't start playing up again, all this sort of stuff. And that's what we need to get across. So we're not just educating through ThinkTree the actual therapist, but the therapist then is better placed to actually educate the client.
Yeah.
So they take back responsibility for their health as well.
Excellent. And Jane will be sending us blogs and putting things in our newsletter for us as well. So we'll have regular updates.
I think Rosemary wants me to do one on the Lomi next.
Excellent. We look forward to that one. So, have you got any messages from your point of view as a subject matter expert in aromatherapy? Anything that you'd like to maybe say to our upcoming students or our already therapists that you see is quite significant for this industry?
yeah, take your education. Don't stop learning. Keep educating yourself. You know, whether they be the CPD courses, or you suddenly find, actually, I've got an interest in that. And if it's anything to do with aromatherapy, obviously, come talk to me, you know, contact me, and I can chat with you. Because very often I'll get students applying to me and saying, I want to do this course. But once I've sat down and talked with them and I've said, actually, I think you're going to be better if you actually study this, because this sits better with your personality. You know, so at the end of the day, it's not about you just doing a therapy. You've got to come over, your personality has to come over as well. So the therapy has to suit the therapist, because otherwise they're not going to give their best to the clients anyway. There's no point just jumping on thinking, oh, aromatherapy is all the rage, I'll go and learn aromatherapy, if actually at the end of the day you're just not going to understand the science behind it, and it's just going to become too much hard work and you're struggling to do it. Learning has to be something that comes from the heart, that you thoroughly can get your teeth into. Think of the subjects when we were at school. You know, we all had subjects that we absolutely loved, and we also had subjects that we absolutely hated. But the ones we flourished in were the things that we enjoyed doing. And the learning comes easy. It's almost like instead of learning, you're remembering. You know? So that's what I try and look for my students as well, to try and guide them. No, I think you should be doing this now, because that fits in. And they have their light bulb moment and they go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought that. So have a look at yourself, you know, and see what else you could add. But I'm not going to say to you either, you know, go out there and get loads and loads of certification in loads and loads of different subjects. Don't. Be a specialist in your field, but draw on certain things that will help to improve that and make it a far rounded treatment that you're actually offering.
Excellent. Well, listen, Jane, thank you ever so much for talking to us.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for being our subject matter expert on aromatherapy. And if you'd like more information about Jane and what Jane offers, then please visit our website, thinktreehub.com. And shortly we will have some of Jane's courses up there as well, workshops and information as well. So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.